Hi, it's Yvette Solis. I'm part of Dr. Tran's biology course. I'm going to be going over the cell, their structures and functions. So I found this game and we're going to be going over all the cell structures and functions. Okay, so your mission. Top secret message from the Pentagon. Our intelligence tells us that Dr. Ernest Lee Vile is planning another insane scheme. He plans to destroy all life by destroying cells. As you know, all living things are made of cells. We chose you to man a special cell exploration vehicle because you are the best pilot around. You will explore the inside of the cell, gather information, and report back. We are counting on you to find out exactly how Dr. Vile's plans to destroy cells. Okay, those are the controls. I'm going to do mission 1. You will enter the cell by endocytosis. The cell membrane will surround you and pull you in. You will be traveling through the fluid interior of the cell known as cytoplasm. Your ship is now entering the cell by endocytosis. Now that you are inside the cell, you must shoot the cell organelles and structures to learn about each one. Okay. I'm going to shoot the cell membrane.
Plasma membrane.
The plasma membrane, or cell membrane, is the boundary that surrounds all cells. It regulates what enters and leaves the cell to ensure that the cell maintains homeostasis. The plasma membrane is selectively permeable, or semi-permeable, because it allows some substances to pass through, but not others. The cell membrane is also made out of phospholipid molecules, and they create a barrier around the cell. Why is the plasma membrane critical to the survival of a cell? The cell membrane contains the genetic material. The cell membrane produces cellular energy. The cell membrane regulates what enters and leaves the cell. Okay, I'm going to shoot the cytoskeleton next.
Cytoskeleton.
The cytoskeleton is like the cell skeleton. Cyto meaning cell and skeleton meaning skeleton. The cytoskeleton is made of microtubules and microfilaments. It helps maintain a cell structure and shape. It also helps the cell move, locomotion. Unlike the skeleton of the body, the cytoskeleton is able to constantly change, breaking down parts that are not needed and growing new parts where necessary. The cytoskeleton is not involved in making energy, cell movement, maintaining cell shape, or maintaining cell structure. It does not make energy. I'm going to shoot lysosome.
Lysosome.
Lysosomes have hydrolytic enzymes that break down or digest things in the cell. They digest or destroy viruses and other invaders, like your ship. They also help to digest food particles and recycle cell parts. The lysosome destroys viruses. As a pilot, you should avoid lysosomes. Why? Lysosomes digest invaders and other materials with enzymes. The Golgi apparatus, or the Golgi body, receives vesicles containing proteins that were sent by the rough ER. It then modifies the proteins, if necessary, and then sends them to where they need to go. What would happen if the Golgi bodies in the cell were destroyed? The cell would spontaneously combust. The cell would no longer be able to make cell energy. The cell would have difficulty processing and transporting proteins. I was not supposed to happen. Okay. Ribosomes?
Ribosomes.
The ribosomes make proteins. Proteins do many critical jobs in cells. In fact, cells cannot live without proteins. Ribosomes use the instructions written on RNA in order to make proteins correctly. And here's an animation. Ribosomes are also the smallest organelles found in all cells. And they build proteins by putting together long chains of amino acids according to the mRNA message. There's 1,000 in each cell. What would happen if the ribosomes in the cell were destroyed by Dr. Veal's evil scheme? The cell would be unable to produce glucose. The cell would no longer be able to produce proteins. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is covered with ribosomes. This is what makes it look rough or bumpy. The rough ER is involved in transporting proteins. The proteins are sent away to the ER in vesicles that transport them to the Golgi apparatus. What would happen if the rough ER in the cell were destroyed by Dr. Veal's evil scheme? The cell would be unable to produce glucose. The cell would no longer be able to send proteins to the Golgi. The mitochondrion. Check out the animation below. What do mitochondrions make? ATP? Mitochondria make ATP. ATP is cellular energy. What is ATP? Energy that cells can use. The process of making ATP in cells is called cell respiration. Respiration uses the food you eat and the oxygen you breathe to make ATP. Carbon dioxide, and water. To make ATP, mitochondria need to take in food, glucose, carbon dioxide, oxygen, or both food and oxygen. The answer is D. Remember, your ship is cleverly designed to run on ATP just like the cell does. If you run low on energy, gather more ATP from the mitochondria. Vesicle, the nucleolus, nucleus, and smooth ER. I suck at this game. Okay, all I need are okay, sorry about that. I need to shoot a vesicle. Vesicles transport substances such as proteins to where they need to go in the cell. They are membrane sacs that carry the cell's cargo. Vesicles are like vehicles. What is the primary function of vesicles? To make proteins, to make energy, to make rough ER rougher, or to transport proteins and other substances? This is D. Trying to get to the nucleus. Smooth ER. Okay, I can do smooth ER.
Smooth endoplasmic reticulum.
The smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or smooth ER, makes lipids and performs other chemical reactions. It also detoxifies poisons. Notice that it does not have ribosomes and it is not involved in making proteins. So it makes lipids and performs other chemical reactions and detoxifies poisons, not involved in making proteins. What would happen if the smooth ER in the cell were destroyed? The cell would be unable to produce glucose, the cell would no longer be able to produce proteins, The cell would no longer be able to make enough ATP through respiration. The cell would not be able to make lipids or break down poisons.
ATP energy. Nucleus.
The nucleus holds and protects the cell's DNA. DNA is the genetic material of the cell. DNA carries the information and instructions that direct the cell. Why is the nucleus important? It is useful for making cell energy. It contains and protects the cell's DNA. It is the site of the protein synthesis, or both A and C. Specifically, DNA has the instructions for making RNA. Because DNA cannot leave the nucleus, RNA is used as the instructions for making proteins. What is the main function of the DNA? The DNA does all the jobs in the cell. The DNA makes carbohydrates. DNA has the instructions to make RNA, and RNA is used to make proteins. Let's see.
Nucleolus.
The nucleolus is the dark spot in the nucleus and makes ribosomes. This is important because ribosomes make proteins. What would happen if the nucleolus in the cell was destroyed by Dr. Veal's evil scheme? The cell would be unable to produce glucose. The cell would no longer be able to produce ribosomes, which are needed to make proteins. So, thanks for watching, and if you want to play the game, all you have to do is go to Google and put cell structure game. It should be this one, Bioman Bio, and it's the first one.